Where you going? What are you drinking tonight? Let's keep 'em flowing. Where do you come from? Where you going? What are you feeling tonight? And what are you showing? Where do you come from? 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 Where you going? What are you drinking tonight? Let's keep 'em flowing.
Hello everybody, we are live with Super PlayStation Bros. What's going on? Hopefully everyone's doing fantastic today. I'm joined as always, leveling up the podcast, bringing in those stars with the PlayStation knowledge. That is Dorgon. What's going on? How are you doing today?
Morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is when you're watching this, folks. I thank you all very much for tuning in. Rue, I am great. I am upright. I am not outside, which is currently very windy and very wet. So I'd be taking off and getting drenched through. And I've got a hot cup of tea, so life is good. What more can one ask for? How's about yourself,
Very
my man?
nice.
I realised I was drinking a tea halfway through trying to talk to you.
Well, I'm doing fantastic. Can't complain. Been enjoying games on the PlayStation. Finished Final Fantasy VII, which was absolute roller coaster of emotions. The production levels so incredibly high. My only issue is I have to wait so long before I get the next installment of the game. But I can't wait to see what happens. And I'm even like hovering over playing the old school one, so I get to see, you know, from the first-hand experience how much has changed. But people keep telling me the mechanics are far different, and maybe I won't enjoy it as much. But the final boss fight, 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours from start to end. Like, what kind of... Oh my goodness, just ludicrous in length.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an intense fight. The plus point with like the modern consoles is you can just pause the game and put the console in rest mode and come back to it later. On the PS1, if you turn that off, you turn that off. If you did not get to a save point, you were not coming back into that fight. You had to start it all over again. The original's great. I love the original. I like playing it on emulation nowadays because it can upscale the graphics a little bit, make it look smoother and nicer on the eye, a bit more like you remember it. But it also means that you can do save states with emulation. So if you're halfway through a fight, because we all have real lives, have to go somewhere else, you can input a save state and come back to it at a later point. So if you are going back to the OG Final Fantasy VII, I would highly recommend emulating it.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to look at that. Maybe I won't play it on the remake of the PlayStation or however they do it on the PS Premium. But we'll see. We'll see. You know, I may not have the endurance to make it through the first one. But other than that, I have been playing some Dragon's Dogma 2, and I have my opinions. And that is that I was assuming that this game was going to utilize CPU and make the smartest NPCs I've seen to date. I thought that it was going to be Elden Ring, but I'm accompanied by 4 pawns that I shape and customize to my playstyle. That's not quite the case. The pawns are not quite the brightest. Some have led me to doom and death. Others just jump into walls. I am just the story structure is something I'm not used to. It's definitely hidden and uncovers many. It's not Elden Ring with pawns. Essentially, that's the situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think about Rise of the Ronin sometimes.
You think about Rise of the Ronin. It's. I'm not surprised. I feel like Rise of the Ronin is more up yours and my alley in personal tastes, even despite some of the lower reviews and what have you. I think both of them are a bit of been there, done that. But I do have a question for you about Dragon's Dogma and these idiotic pawns. And you're like, oh, they were meant to be super smart, blah, blah, blah. You've lived in the world. You've met smart people who are also incredibly dumb and walk into lampposts and such. It's fairly realistic, I'd say, in that regard. People just walk into their doom, even though they're intelligent and can fight a behemoth of some description.
You know what? I recently heard that description. It's just realistic. You know, not everybody's going to care about quests and stuff. They're going to be like, oh, yeah, he was over in this direction somewhere. And I'm like, you know what? If you look at it through that lens, it makes a lot of sense. Not everybody is super smart. So that's just how it's going to be. But I want to give a shout out to everybody in chat hanging out with us. We got Neil coming in with the SPSB. Wait, Super PlayStation Brothers.
The PlayStation Bros, yeah.
Yeah. Then we got David Wilson. What's going on? SPG Phoenix Sanchez Gaming, the maker of Chaos, Lo-Fi Monk coming in with those pick hand waves. Hopefully everybody's doing well. And SPG cracking jokes. But yeah, I will just have to put it on my wish list for now. I think I'll definitely be picking that up when it comes to a sale. Otherwise, I'll be playing Dragon's Dogma because I'm starting to enjoy the combat a bit more now that I'm a higher level, and I find it's the best way to play it, two-screen experience. You get a mission, you look it up online, and then you know what to do because the game does not tell you anything. So this is what I'm dubbing this game. It's a two-screen experience.
Yeah, so
It's
you're
not a bad
sort of
way to
playing a bit like this.
Yeah. Yes. But hey,
Sweet.
hey, games are different. Capcom, it was made in the Unreal, or not the Unreal, sorry, Resident Evil 7 engine. And as soon as somebody told me it, mine shattered. Because every time I go to the pause menu and stuff, I hear Resident Evil. The same sound effects.
Brilliant.
Oh,
Brilliant.
but I've gone on. Have you been playing anything this week on the station? What have you been up to?
I've actually gone back in time this week, and I've been playing on the PlayStation 4. There's been a few reasons as to why, but one was just to see how well it holds up in 2024. Bear in mind, there's still more people on the PS4 than on the PS5, and there's still games being released for it. There's certain games that are only PlayStation 4. You can play them on the PlayStation 5 with backwards compatibility, but they're being released as PlayStation 4 titles. So I was very interested to see how well it held up. And although there are a few frame rate challenges, like dropping back down to 30 in some games it's very challenging. It's a little bit nausea-inducing, and it lowers your ability to react, to respond, and engage properly in certain titles, especially if you've become used to them at higher frame rates. But I actually had a very serviceable, very acceptable and fun time, whether it was God of War Ragnarok, whether it was Destiny 2, whether it was Miles Morales, whether that was cloud streamed or on the device itself. Some of these games even run at 60 FPS on the PS4 Pro. I had a really fun experience going back in time, and then when I went forwards in time back onto the PlayStation 5 to play some of these titles again, it just made me appreciate what I've got at the moment.
Wow, that's quite the personal experience. Hey, if you got the hardware, may as well give it a whirl. But cool. That's what gamers do. They game.
Exactly.
Right?
Doesn't matter where
right.
or how or when, they game.
Exactly. Let's jump into what's going on in PlayStation this week. So that's what the people are here for. This is the news. Well, obviously they're here to see our beautiful faces and chat games, but they want to be educated on what's going on in PlayStation this week. So you shared this story to me. However, you're a big proponent. Here, we'll go over it. Modern turns rare PS1 controller into a fully functional handheld PlayStation. Very cool to see. I like the idea. And the PlayStation 1 games look nicer than I originally assumed they look. But what I will say is you can do this all on your phone as well. But it's a nice gadget.
You can do it all on your phone, and it's a darn sight easier on your phone. You can even do it on iOS now, because Apple opened up their App Store last week to allow classic game emulators. They specifically mentioned classic game emulators, so things that are no longer on the market. So things like the Switch emulator that got shut down a few weeks back, Yuzu, that's not going to be on iOS. But if you've got a PlayStation 1 emulator, an N64 emulator, PlayStation 2 emulator, we're pushing a point now where mobile phones can emulate PlayStation 3s with a lot of behind-the-scenes wizardry, but they could do that as well. So all of these classic games emulators are coming onto any mobile platform now, which is great, and it's far easier than this thing, but this breathes new life into tech that had a very short shelf life originally, is incredibly rare, and if you've got one, fairly easy to do. It's just a case of, if you've got one, you're probably a collector, and you're not going to want to take it apart, remove its original internals, which were for a couple of games only, and then replace it with the internals of a PS1, essentially, and load it up with a bunch of games on a drive. But to make use of otherwise just sitting there e-waste and wasted plastic, I'm all for it. I like giving things a new lease of life and lowering my environmental impact by utilizing things I've already got as much as possible.
Well, yeah, it's definitely using, I don't know if you have this in England, but we always had the recycle, reuse. Damn, now I'm forgetting
We had reduce, reuse, recycle, and that's the order you meant to do it.
Reduce, reuse, recycle. Yes.
Yeah. So you reduce the amount of things you're using, because that's going to be the biggest impact that you could have environmentally. Then you've got reuse, because if you've already got it, you may as well use it rather than throwing it away. And then the recycle, if you can't make use of it, you make it into something else or give it to somebody else to make into something else. So that's how I understand it works. If I'm wrong, please feel free to correct me in the comments or chat.
Protecting the planet, exactly.
Captain Planet!
Yeah. But hey,
now I'm showing my age.
If you thought prices were going up forever, apparently Saber Interactive CEO thinks $70 games are just a phase. Well, it's too bad we're caught up in the terrible twos, because damn, I hate this phase if we're the only ones getting the expensive games. It seems like these are just unsustainable on a business model from what I hear, and they are calling for shorter games at smaller prices.
Yeah, there's many levels to it, isn't it? And it's stuff we've spoken about a few times from different topics, but it's like, this is the first time somebody sort of directly addressed it in an interview from the industry of like, yeah, well, this isn't sustainable, it can't keep going. And we've said it multiple times, like, what are games in Canada at the moment? Are they $90 for their base version?
Yep. Yeah, 94
so,
I think it comes out to.
So we've got $94 games in your neck of the woods. We've got £70 games here, which is not a currency conversion, because 70 US dollars equates to about £56. So you're getting shafted, we're getting shafted, Europe's getting shafted. All because people want to make a little bit more money on each individual item. And I feel what many of them are missing, and this is something that the Saber Interactive CEO is alluding to here, is that you're going to have less people buying overall if it's that bit more expensive. If your game is even just $10 cheaper, that's $60, $84, £60. We can justify that much more as a consumer because that £10 can go into something else quite nicely. That $10 could probably feed a couple for an evening or whatever the case may be. So he's definitely got a point, and at some point the CEOs of the big companies that own the platforms are going to have to realize this as well, because if they just keep upping the price of the games, no gamer is going to buy them. By all means, offer your special editions that cost more, but your base level, that base price, that entry level point, it needs to come down. And you've seen with the likes of Helldivers, which was a much, much cheaper game than anything else, it has made so much more money and had so much more success than anything else out there because people were hearing good things about it. And because it was at that price point, people could take a punt and they didn't feel like they were wasting a week's wage on something they might not like. So yeah, I think Save Beer Interactive CEO has got a very good point on this one, and I hope that platform CEOs are paying attention to them and will follow through on this prediction.
Me too. Bring those prices down. Bring those prices down, especially with the success of Helldivers. Like, I've put so much more time into Helldivers than other games, and the price value per entertainment is there. And we see some trends moving away from physical software. It only accounted for 10% of all US video game content spending in 2019 across console, portable, PC, cloud, all these aspects. And then you have to mention mobile, because obviously mobile's not going to be physical. So what this tweet is sort of saying is that there is a trend moving away from physical. It may not be as astronomical as 10%, because mobile's strapped alongside, but there is a trend. I feel we saw Walmart earlier this year and last year selling out all of their physical copies in the US of these video games. So I feel like coming into the future, and you know what, it may or may not be, but I do not think PS6, Xbox Next Generation, Super Switch 2, those things will have discs or cartridges. I think they'll be all digital, but we'll see. We'll see.
I think they'll still be digital on the PlayStation side because they're a Japanese company. But it's a very skewed, very I've made these stats to prove my point type of tweet. Oh, we're moving to digital only because only 5% of people, only 10% of people are buying it. They've thrown mobile in there. You cannot get physical media of a game on mobile, and you've got all these freemium type titles where you download the game for free and you pay small microtransactions within it to get new stuff. Genshin Impact rakes in billions upon billions of dollars per year, and Genshin alone would outstrip spending of physical just from its microtransactions. That's the sort of skewed level we're looking at with these stats. What I have seen in stats in recent years is that, and again, we're slightly out of date. This one's looking at 2019 that you've got up on screen here. The stats that I have are from like 2020, and they're for Japan and UK Europe. Here in the UK and Europe, we've got a Brexit split on buying digital physical. So digital is like a 48% market share, and physical is a 52% market share. But that's only taking console into account. So that doesn't throw handhelds in there like the ROG Ally or the Steam Deck, which came out, like Steam Deck has been out since about 2019. So again, that can only get digital copies of games. And PC has been digital only for a long, long time. There's certain games that I've still got the discs of for PC that I would love to play, but no one has a PC with a disc drive that I could go and plug it into, sort of thing. But console sales is very much a Brexit split here in the UK and Europe, that 48-52. Then if you go over to Japan, they're doing 60% physical sales, and it's growing. In 2024, physical sales in Japan have actually been growing. So this is very much a case of someone has made a stat to prove their biased point. And it is a complete stat, don't get me wrong, but it's touting a fact of, oh, digital's way overtaken physical, not taking into account that they've thrown mobile phones in there, which there are more of on the planet than people. So how's that going to work with all of the other stats combined? Of course, it's going to skew it towards
absolutely. There is definitely, we see here a trend of physical copies being sold in Japan. Tons of physical, like magazines. People still eat up the physical in different markets. It's simply, I think, the US may be moving away from that digital purchases. Sorry, going back to the stat, what I missed here, and it's my bad. In 2023, this percentage fell to under 5% for physical purchases accounted in gaming for the US. So perhaps it's a situation of the US is moving away from it while Japan is moving in the other direction, and England is kind of in the middle. But we'll see. We'll see
Don't
how
worry.
it ends up.
We'll have a divorce with physical that nobody actually wants. That's how we'll go. Like the 48% will somehow not get their way. It's like nearly half of us will just be screwed overnight or something. Yeah, that's how it'll go in Britain. We'll have a divorce with physical that nobody wants. So that's how we tend to do things.
All right. Maker of Chaos says Chris during even said box physical sales were down 45% in the UK. SPG says high quality, higher details, and smaller experiences are needed for the industry. Absolutely. Matt also said today that compared to physical sales are down 37% despite gaming revenue increasing 25% at the time. But I think the issue with the stat is when you include mobile. I'd love to see a stat that isolates mobile, because nobody's buying a physical game for a mobile device. And people are buying physical games every single day en masse.
I think
so many devs are launching onto this platform.
Yeah, and I think next generation needs to look at the media as well. Like we've seen that discs degrade over time. We've got discs now that aren't lasting 10 years. And I love to have the physical edition because I love to pop that disc in at any point in the future and play the game, regardless of whether the servers are online or not, sort of thing. But we're getting to a point where that physical media is being extended. Like, how many discs did Final Fantasy VII come on? How many discs did Baldur's Gate 3 come on for PlayStation? We're talking like 2 and 3 discs a piece here. And this is a current gen console that we're not even halfway through the lifespan of. So there needs to be a change in the physical media moving forward. And I do think Nintendo actually have that right with the cartridges. You can put a terabyte, or you could put 2 terabytes on a really small cartridge, plug that into the front of your console, because it would work the same as like a micro SD card in a super high speed camera. I can see that working really well. But yeah, there needs to be a change in physical, and if we do all go towards these cartridge type ideas or micro SD card ideas, then more devices could have physical options as well.
I want to bring up that Maker brings up a good point, saying regardless of mobile, physical revenue being down 37% is not a great trend for the future. So I will highlight that and say
again that's only the US.
True. Yeah,
that's
US.
one country out of 195 in the world, but they don't matter that much. So it's an interesting stat. It is worrying for the US market.
Right.
But compared to the rest of the world, it's kind of a nothing stat. It's one of those. It's you have to take these things in context. And as much as the US is an important market for a lot of these people, it's not the only market. And if it starts failing, they'll just move to a different market where it's not failing. So yeah, it's interesting stats, but not the be-all and end-all. There's a lot more to put into the pot to get a true reflection.
Well, we have two sides of the coin here. Dorgon champions physical forever, and I think physical it'll be digital only but I'm more of a minimalist. I minimalist. I don't got space for all the games, and I don't trust myself to keep them super clean in and out of the thing all the time. So
I've seen your desk.
Digress.
Yeah.
You've seen my desk. Houston, the only bit I have against physical is the fact that you get it and you still have to download like a 5 to 20 gig file system on your thing. Yeah, that is true. There is a always digital aspect to the physical. I remember even God of War Ragnarok. I had to do a big download because my PlayStation came with a God of War Ragnarok copy. But yeah, they work together. So maybe they will always stay together. If anything, we're just taking guesses in the wind. But let's jump into Stellar Blade and the director vows for the industry advice. And this is what we need, more variety. So yes, they could have done something in the way of creating a mobile title to generate as much income as possible. But it's about bringing diversity to the gaming platform field. And that's what this game is doing. It's bringing a genre out front. And I think I'm all for it. I want to see more games like Stellar Blade. They're more up my alley. But it's not about chasing the higher profits. And I think that's something cool for somebody to get out and say. They just made it for the betterment of gaming. And maybe it's a noble, like, I'm just doing this for gaming kind of speech. But you got to like the article when somebody does say that. What are your thoughts on it? Do you think it's all stage and marketing, or do you think this is what they want at Shift Up?
This is their first game. It's the first ever game from Shift Up. We've never seen anything from them before. We don't know what they make, but Stellar Blade is a hack and slash action adventure RPG mix of things, plus a fashion game at some point because you can change your outfit regularly. It's one of those scenarios where what he's saying is right, but I feel like he's saying it in defense of the game, and the sort of negative words against, oh, she's a slim, hot protagonist again. And let's just be honest, we're still struggling to get female protagonists, so the fact that she just exists is a minor miracle even in this day and age with the gaming space. I like the words resonate with me. We need much more variety in the types of games we're getting. I'm tired of these live service forever type games that are just shooters or arena shooters or hero shooters or this and that other shooter or gacha adventure games that release all of their content over the course of 27,000 years. We need variety in the space, and I know the freemium model like Genshin Impact, the freemium model like Honkai Star Rail, they work. They bring in billions upon billions of dollars per year. It's exactly the same with the likes of Apex Legends, Call of Duty Warzone, and so on and so forth. But we do need variety. Not every gamer is going to want to play those titles. I don't want to play any of those titles I've just mentioned. None of them appeal to me at all. So this whole situation of give us some single-player games, give us some smaller titles, give us some longer titles, give us some artsy type titles, give us some side-scrolling Metroidvanias, give us some 3D platformers. We need this variety within the industry. Can you imagine how boring television and movies would be if every single one was the same or part of just 3 types of movie? Like, we'd all stop going to the cinema, cinemas would die, and TV stations would go off air, big streaming services would stop. It's exactly the same with gaming. Like, if we don't have that variety, if we don't have enough to bring more than just a core 20 million players in worldwide, bear in mind, you are not gonna get a sustainable industry. So yes, we do need that variety. What he's saying is right. I think it came from a defensive position, but I'm here to back what he's saying.
Well, regardless of what people are saying, everybody is commenting on the yams. Look at the chat go. They can't stop but mention Eve's body. It's just a character, guys. It's a gaming character. But yes, I want to talk about Stellar Blade's difficulty. It's designed to be challenging yet approachable. So those looking forward to Stellar Blade, here, I'll put the picture big up for everybody so they can see. And what's going on?
You are not,
Drew Voss.
You are not helping the conversation here, chat. We've gone through that. We need representation. We need, all this differentiation and variety in games, and you come in with the whole go back to your basements. Hey, seriously,
you gotta have fun when they allow you. And then we got Vet Cloud Gaming jumping in the chat. How's it going? Hope you're doing well. And if I didn't say what up to Family Cloud Gaming, hopefully you're doing well. Look forward to you doing another stream up on the Twitch. But let's jump into it. Stellar Blade difficulty. So this is a big one for me. I was looking forward to something along the same lines as a Souls-esque combat. But what we are getting here is something along the lines of designed for approachability. We have the story mode and the normal mode as the options in the game. So the story mode will allow you to slow down a lot of the enemy's actions, be able to activate those parries better and easier, where normal will bring it back to the level they designed. And if you want to crank up the difficulty like I enjoy doing, you'll have to actually beat the game. Similar to Final Fantasy, they're saying that hard mode will be unlocked in New Game Plus, but it's simply teased right now, so we'll have to see. But I will be still playing through it because I love this type of combat in a game. The graphics are amazing, and it has nothing to do with the protagonist. Nothing.
I mean, the protagonist's got decent characterization. There's a lot we didn't get through the demo. I'm sure she will be a great part of the title, otherwise it's going to be very difficult to get through. But yeah, like yourself, I really enjoyed the combat, thought the graphic balance between frame rate and graphical fidelity was incredibly well done. I am looking forward to the title. It's just a case of, again, they're expensive and money's tight, the world is expensive. It might end up being a sale game for me, and I wish it weren't because I do want to play it, but I wish that hard mode was there at the start. I find a lot of games become quite boring for me if I'm not playing them on hard mode. I need that additional level of challenge a lot of the time. There's certain games where I don't. I need it to be just normal what they designed, but yeah, from the demo, I wanted more challenge in the combat and exploration, and I just don't feel I'm going to get it until I've completed the game. So we'll see. It's probably going to ramp up as the game progresses. There's some massive, amazing monsters that we've seen from trailers. So it could be a massive difference once it's actually released.
And I guess for the decorum of this show, I won't show the Maxim video that Korea released in response to IGN France. Right? We're not doing that? We're not doing that?
Not if you want your channel to remain online. No.
Okay, it did get flagged for that short I made. I will say that. All right,
anyway.
Fine. We'll move away from the Maxim body. But if you want to check it out for yourself, check out Maxim Korea. They released a video response to IGN's France comment that it's not modeled off a real person, and they showed off the model, in fact, as a real person.
Yeah.
So, oh wow, don't leave the channel already to go watch it. Stay here.
Yeah, watch it after the show. After the show.
Sony wants nothing to do with the Knights of the Old Republic remake, claims a source. Wow, we keep hearing things come back and forth on this one. At this point, Saber Interactive has recently confirmed the remake of Knights of the Old Republic is alive and well, but it seems like Sony's no longer interested. Hey, I really thought that Sony would have a great attachment to this, maybe polish it up, maybe make the story more engaging and really bring me into it. But now that Sony's not attached to it and it's simply going to be a Saber Interactive game, it gets me less excited. This will be a hype train of which, if my friends are on it, I'll probably look into it. But other than that, I don't know. KOTOR.
It's one of those. Yeah, it's one of those for me. KOTOR it's a very important game. Very important game in terms of narrative, in terms of RPG, in terms of narrative twists, gameplay. It set the stage for a lot of people back in the early 2000s or late 90s. I can't quite remember which side of the millennium it fell. But it's still totally playable today. Okay, it looks like an old game, but it's still totally playable today on many different platforms, including mobile. Like, you can pick it up on your phone and start playing KOTOR. And whilst the remake would be great on console and such, I do understand why Sony no longer want anything to do with this. When they signed the contract to publish this title, they signed that contract with Aspyr. Aspyr are the development team that just released the remastered Tomb Raider trilogy, that original Tomb Raider trilogy that was remastered. They were the ones who were meant to be making the Knights of the Old Republic remake. But then the industry started doing this ridiculous thing of everybody buying everything, swapping around, jerking each other off, and swapping all sorts of nasties overnight, sort of thing. And then suddenly it's with Saber Interactive, who've just been sold themselves to somebody else. And at that point, it's like, well, we haven't seen any of the development. We don't know what's going on here. It's not with who we signed the contract with. We don't want to publish this anymore. Washing my hands. I get it. I would be exactly the same. It's not the contract that I signed, and you can't prove that you're going to do as good or better job. That's what it sounds like to me, which, like yourself, then seems to put this in a similar sort of camp to the Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake and Skull and Bones.
Well, I can definitely understand if you're not giving the money to the same people who you originally did the contract with, the contract terms have changed. So that makes sense to me on a business level. I guess we'll see. And Aspyr also did the Battlefront port. Oh, come on. Why are you going to swear in the chat there, Maker? That doesn't bode well for Aspyr. I feel like that one sort of went under the radar.
They've had a hit and a miss this year, all right? One hit, one miss. I mean, they're batting even at the moment. Like, if they have a third one, that will sort of decide it for us.
SPG's right. Sometimes it's hard for these retro games to be remade, especially with dated game design. It can be hard for the gamer today to really adapt and appreciate the design of older years. So it's really for that specific audience, I think. But let's get into a game that I didn't realize was taking a while to make. Oh my gosh, this is Skull and Bones level development length. Jeez. Unicorn Overlord development began in 2016 when it was originally planned for the PS Vita. That is crazy to me. Eventually they released what I believe was a demo already of this, but wow, it moved over 500,000 copies the first week on the market. So it has been on the market, but geez, what a crazy development time. Not my cup of tea, RPG anime type of style, but way to pivot and do that. What sparked you on this article for Unicorn Overlord?
I miss the Vita. But that was the main thing. Like, as late as 2016, we had development teams coming out and starting development on games for the PlayStation Vita. It was powerful enough to do that. It would still run Unicorn Overlord even in its final state, because we've got something like the Nintendo Switch running Unicorn Overlord. It's not the most stressful of games. The last game that we had released onto the PlayStation Vita was in 2021. And that was a magical day. That game, basically anyone who had a Vita bought it, maybe bought it 2 or 3 times to put it on all of their Vitas and such. It is such an amazing little handheld console. It fits in your pocket. It's smaller than most mobile phones are nowadays. It has dual thumbsticks. It has touchscreen front and rear. It has a camera on it. It has all of the console inputs that you are used to, shoulder buttons, face buttons, the whole shebang. It's a native gamer, it's a remote player, it could do cloud gaming at one point. It had access to PlayStation Cloud. If Sony had not abandoned this brilliant little handheld, we'd have had one of the year's most talked about best games on it, or its successor, the Vita 2. But here we are, just lamenting the fact that this brilliant little handheld console was never supported as well as it should have been. This would have been a great game for it, and I'm very disappointed Sony fluffed it with the Vita.
Well, cheers to the new PSP, the PlayStation Portal.
It does not deserve those names, that title.
All right. Well, let's move on to how much do you care about 60 FPS on PS5? I have a follow-up article on this, but I wanted to ask, what is your feelings on 60 FPS? Do you think you're owed it? Let's hear it.
I was sold the PlayStation 5 on the promise of 60 frames per second. When I bought that console, I was told that the lowest games would run at would be 30 if you were running them at native 4K, but most of them would be able to run at 60. But you'd need a special TV to get more than that. I didn't have that special TV, so I knew 60 was the absolute maximum I was getting. If I had that special TV, I'd be aiming for that 120 all the time. Having experienced 60 frames per second, especially in certain genres of game, like a hack and slash title, a shooter title, even some action adventure titles, dropping back down to 30 is physically painful. It makes me feel physically ill. I experienced this last week jumping back onto the PlayStation 4, Destiny 2 in 30 frames per second. It only runs at 30 on the PlayStation 4, and it was painful to experience. I felt physically sick. I couldn't look at the screen properly. It diminished my ability to actually play the game. And when I've been sold a piece of hardware on the promise of 60 frames per second, that I will get to choose that in any game that I want, and there are then games coming out that won't achieve that, I feel like I have been missold something. That's £500 worth of console that I have been missold at that point. And you can call it an artistic choice all you want. It's developers not doing their job well enough. I was sold this, saying games would run at 60 frames per second if I wanted 60 frames per second, and then these developers are not living up to that promise. That's not a customer issue. That's not an issue that I have. It's an issue that those guys making it, both the hardware and the software, have in not delivering on promises that were made. I think 60 FPS is a minimum requirement for this generation. I do not think it is acceptable to ship something with less than that, especially with the promises made at the point of purchase.
I would have to agree. I mean, the reality of the situation is I haven't really experienced a lock 60 FPS in a story game since Horizon. I feel Forbidden West, it really held that 60 FPS and gave me the experience of buttery smooth gameplay. These third-party titles that I'm picking up, it mentions Final Fantasy VII in the article here, that 60 FPS actually did detrimental things to the performance of the game and made the graphics sort of unviewable in many aspects, and for that I'd love to just see 60 FPS the standard and have this output on games. Maker brings up that he loves 30 FPS on his Nintendo Switch for Zelda. However, that was built for that console. It was 100% optimized, and the graphics and the art style lent itself to 30 FPS. I think when we're moving towards more of that realistic, really eye-capturing, especially a game like Dragon's Dogma, I feel could have benefited from holding 60 FPS and made it buttery, crispy, smooth. But what we run into here is the fact that software is outpacing our hardware, or they're simply not optimizing, or they're missing a key in terms of translating it to really make it work. Whether that be budget, technology, or knowledge, it's got to be one of those things that's preventing us from getting locked 60 FPS. Or we were sold marketing. Unfortunately, we bought into it. Freaking blast processing.
I think there's a fourth one you can add in there as well, and that is a word that developers hate to hear, that is bandied around by armchair pundits regularly, but laziness. Like, you could make these games work at 60 frames per second. Like, the one that sort of sparked this conversation last week with a lot of people was an Xbox title, actually, which, according to a lot of leaks, is going to be coming to PlayStation in the future anyway, and that's Hellblade 2: Senua's Sacrifice. It's locked at 30 frames per second, and there's no reason for that game to be locked at 30 frames per second. Ninja Theory are calling it an artistic choice, but it doesn't need to look the way it looks. We've got to a point where we're pushing graphics so hard, so far, for such minimal gains that the player doesn't notice and doesn't care about. And I think those are the two most important things. All this extra work that's increasing the prices of these games, that's stopping them reaching their 60 frames per second threshold, the player doesn't care and the player doesn't notice. If there's two things that the player isn't seeing or caring about, why are you bloody well implementing them? Get rid, lower your graphical level and fidelity a little bit. It's still going to look hyper-realistic. We had hyper-realistic games like The Last of Us Part 2 on PlayStation 4, last generation, 4 years ago. It still looks incredible if you just play that PS4 version of the game, let alone the PlayStation 5 version. There is no need for these games to be struggling to hit 60 frames per second on the hardware that they've got. This hardware is not going to change for the entire hardware generation. These companies knew that coming in. They know what they need to do to optimize their title to run at 60 frames per second. And a lot of it is that they have made a choice to not bother doing that. Because you've seen it from modders who can do it. They took things like Gotham Knights at the beginning of last year and made that run at 60 frames per second on a hacked PS5. Okay, it's jailbroken firmware, but they could then mod that game and make it work like players wanted it to. If a member of the community can do that, highly paid, highly skilled video game developers can definitely do that.
Well, we have a lot of comments in here on the chat. Houston Aries says 30 FPS is mind-numbing playing first-person shooters. And the maker says that low-end PCs, when I bought my PS5 and X, I knew at some point we'd be getting more 30 FPS games as this generation continued. It's unfortunate. The marketing was really telling us that we'd be getting 60 FPS, and they just didn't deliver on there. But yeah, PS5 Pro may be able to hit 60. I believe the PS5 Pro is really just going to bring ray tracing to a lot of games. I think that's what its main thing is. If it does
turn that off too. Like, seriously, going back to my previous point of stuff that gamers don't notice and don't care about, get rid of ray tracing and we'll hit 60 frames per second. There's enough power there. No one notices it.
Some people who use photo mode want nice light, all right?
Oh, Digims, all three of you.
Yeah, I want the ray tracing.
The rest of us want a good game.
I'm sure 60 FPS can be achieved with a game with enough work, but a lot of devs will have to determine if it's worth the effort. Right, and so that's where I feel like it comes to a pyramid of technology, knowledge, and budget, and then Dorgon's input there was laziness, but he has his perspective. I think with money and budget, I mean, you can get laziness trumped there, but I digress.
You're right. If you've got the money to do it, you can do it. And by spending 200, 300 million on a game, why am I not getting 60 frames per second? That is money not well spent at that point. And this is where the corporate issue of game companies at the moment comes in, because it's all being spent in the places that gamers don't give a flying frell about. Yes, Farscape terminology for any sci-fi nerds out there.
But what gamers do care about is dressing their pets up in freaking... I know you just sent this for me, for my dog, but I wanted to bring it up. Look, you can get a Buster Sword for your dog. Oh, how cute is that? And it doesn't just have to be for your dog. You can get it for your cat, too. That is absolutely adorable. I know Phoenix is going out and getting it right away. But oh my gosh,
if you stick that link in chat, she's buying now.
Look at this. They're getting a Fat Moogle nail sharpener for cats and a Buster Sword nail sharpener for cats. Maker, I know you're checking this out. And look at that little rope toy Buster Sword for a dog. Coming soon. So as soon as it gets available, I don't know what I'll do. Maybe I'll buy one. We'll see.
You're going to buy
Final
one.
Fantasy
You are a
cats.
sucker.
The only thing is my dog is like that dog, but 65 pounds. So I get worried about the size of the toy.
He'll be fine. He's a smart dog. But yeah, you're a sucker for these sort of things. It's a game that you love. You absolutely adore your pet. Of course, you're spoiling him with a Buster Sword.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, something cool
Just
to
resigns
look out
himself.
for. Not much convincing there. PSVR 2 hit C Smash gets squashed to flat screen. That is cool. I find these games to be, relaxing, brain stimulating, and they have that fun loop where you're trying to constantly get the high score. Hey, this is cool. I really like, if games pull me into VR for some reason, this would be one of my number one for VR, to just play this and hit ping pong back and forth, because it's that right type of interaction for the hardware. But I love to see it on the 2D screen. Late summer.
It's amazing. It's a great game in VR. It's very, imagine sort of, trying to think how to describe it, a puzzle tennis type game. So you've got blocks that you need to smash, and you need to hit the ball in the right way to make sure, because they're all moving at the same time, and your ball can only hit certain ones in certain orders. It can get quite intense, and there are versus modes online and such as well. I absolutely love it in VR, in VR 2. I thought it was a bit weird that it was only a virtual reality title when it came out, because this is a remake of a Dreamcast title, a Sega Dreamcast game, which was beloved back on that
Rip Dreamcast.
poorly doomed console. Yeah. So the fact that it didn't come with a flat screen option was a bit shocking, but now we've got that. It's coming a year after its launch. I think it's going to be great. And if you've already got the VR version, you'll get the flat screen version included in the price. It'll just be an update in summer. If you don't have the VR version or the VR headset to use it on, you can just buy this when the flat screen update is put out in summer 2024 and enjoy the game looking like you remember it did back on the Dreamcast, just on PS5.
Awesome. Well, I am checking the time, and we got to get through some of these news stories. So Destiny 2 is getting into the light live for all Guardians today. You can jump in and do this new horde mode. Allows you to get turrets, big huge enemies. Cooperation is encouraged but not demanded. But cool thing that they're bringing into the game, new game modes. And no, it's not just like Gambit, which a lot of people have said. I am actually going to be looking forward into jumping into this and trying it out. Cool thing to see. Have you tried it yet? What are your experiences? How does it work?
I've had a couple of sessions on it. I've really enjoyed it. It's horde mode that you know and understand. So you have to hold a point. Yeah, some enemies will drop some orbs that you can pick up and throw at your point to heal it. So if they do get through and start damaging it, you can heal it and regain lost ground, which is quite a nice mechanic. Every 5 rounds, there's a boss to take out, and you've got a few versions of Onslaught to play. Onslaught being the name of this horde mode title. One of them being a 50-round marathon that takes over an hour to get through for some of the best players. So it's going to be a big slog for a lot of people to try and get through that one. But it's sort of like that pinnacle to try and reach until the new update comes later in the year, which we got information for yesterday. That's going to be breaking and changing the game quite drastically. But what this event is for is to give you a power-up and powerful weapons to take with you into the finale of Destiny 2 as we know it, which is coming in a couple of months or a month's time, something along those lines. And it's bringing some of the most powerful broken weapons back and putting them back in your hands at current levels. It's a wonderful update. It's got some revamped missions with timers and difficulty spikes on them. I've had a load of fun, and I've only put about 2 hours into it so far, so I can see a lot more time going into this one.
Cool, thanks for that overview. Let's check out also what they dropped, which was a trailer for the final shape. This is the last installment in Destiny 2 from what I believe. And what they are doing, which is unique, which they showcased, was the combination of light and dark and the new subclass that comes with it. Yes, we're talking prismatic. This will allow the Guardian to use two subclasses, ranging from light and dark. Three subclasses?
You can mix and match as much as you want. So you can take Grenade from Strand, you can take Melee from Solar, you can take your class ability from Stasis, and your super could be from Arc. You can mix and match as much as you want. That's what this is going to be. So build crafting is going to be huge in the final shape. And then you're getting class exotics that give you 2 exotic perks to build into it even further. Basically, they just said, hey, it's the end of the Light and Dark saga. It's the end of 10 years worth of storytelling and gameplay. Let's just give them everything. Basically what we've been asking for since day one, and we finally got it.
Right, and my argument to this is essentially they didn't give you anything new. They recycled everything you already have into one option. But like
whole
you
new
said,
enemy class.
whole new enemy class.
What do you
That's
want?
cool to see. But what I want a third person mode.
You are
That's
never
a lot
getting
to
a
ask
third
for.
person mode from the kings
They
of the
give it to
first
you
person shooter.
in the sword. You're third person when you hold a sword.
Yes, but if this is a first person shooter game first and foremost, there's third person moments, but it's not permanent. Like, these are the guys who made Halo. You didn't want a third person Halo, did you? Actually, you're weird and you may have done.
Yes, I do. That would be epic. That's what Xbox needs to do, by the way. I think you just
I
saved
literally can't take you
Xbox.
anywhere. Can't take you anywhere.
Third person Halo and Xbox would go gangbusters. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool to draw people back in. I know I'll be going and checking it out. I do want to check out the Horde mode into the light and really explore what's happening there and survive as long as I can. I'm so far behind in my builds, but we'll see if I can hold up and survive.
They'll still work.
Let's jump into a couple more things here before we head out. Beat Saber releases first ever hip hop mixtape out today. So if you're on the PSVR 2, this is the update that you are receiving, and it's filled with some hip hop. They call it a mixtape. However, all of these are pretty popular songs. That's not essentially how a mixtape works, but it is what it is. And some very big ones. I was listening to Grandmaster Flash, The Message, before the show. And of course, Hypnotize. Outcast, Hey Yeah would be awesome in Beat Saber as well. Not to
gotta get
mention
your dance
All
onto
Eyes
that.
on Me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some cool songs if you're into the Beat Saber. Have you got the plat yet?
No, I'm still about 4 full combo levels away. I'm trying. It's
so
the most
close.
physically demanding platinum I've ever gone for. It's 4 months since I said I was going for it and only needed 4 trophies. I now only need 1 trophy, but it is the hardest of them all. And it's finding the time of day to just get your sweat on and go for it. It's difficult.
Well, let's talk about maybe some predictions we have moving forward for smaller PS5 exclusives, still reportedly coming later this year. So some reports are suggesting that alongside the long-awaited Silent Hill 2 remake, that a rumored standalone Astrobot game will be coming out this year, according to journalist and insider Jeff Grubb, who's second by none other than The Snitch. So obviously he's dropping the leaks, and as well as we have a tweet from a reputable source saying maybe a bot see through the fog of love. So all indications are saying Astro's coming back, baby.
Yeah, we love Astrobot. I'm hoping it's a VR title. That would start to shift PSVR 2 headsets if they brought that out alongside a discount or offered it as a free game included with any new purchase of the VR headset. I think that'd be great. It's where Astrobot started. He was like the mascot of the PSVR 1, and Astrobot Rescue Mission was incredible. I'd accept the PSVR 2 port of that game personally, because I never got to play it on PSVR 1. But even if it's just another one like we got like with the PS5, the one that was free and included for every single person who picks it up. Astro's Playroom was a great experience. It's still one of the best ways to show off what the PlayStation 5 and the DualSense are capable of. But yeah, bring me Astro. Bring me these smaller titles. We need more regular, cheaper, smaller titles. Most gamers are in their 30s now. That is one demographic that you need to be looking at. They're in their 30s. They're full-time workers. They've got families that they need to take care of, look after, do things, and spend time with. We don't have 600 hours to spend on a game anymore. And if you want to tap into your biggest demographics, you've got to design games for them. So smaller exclusives are going to do huge numbers for PlayStation, I think. And Jeff Grubb, as we said last week, when he was saying about the May big event for PlayStation, which is probably where we're going to hear about a lot of these leaks for real, he's got a good track record at the moment. There's very little he's got wrong. So bring me Astro, bring me other smaller first-party games, and I'll be very happy.
Awesome. And let's close it out here with, if you're a Helldiver, get excited, because tomorrow there will be a Warbond, brand new and explosive, coming on to the field, and I will be streaming live when we get the Warbond, having maximum destructive fun with Democratic Detonation Premium Warbond. We have the automatons coming back. Houston Aries was saying in the chat this morning there's brand new missions as well, which is a lot of fun to see. Hey, I'm all for it. Helldivers is so much fun. I really need them to fix the connectivity issues with a lot of my games that seem to be dropping and have players drop. But we keep hearing about them fixing and constantly working on it. This game exceeded all their expectations. And really, they just need to keep on supporting it, keep on building this community, because it's been a lot of fun. I look forward to the exploding crossbow, which is definitely the highlight of this battle pass.
Yeah. Helldivers is great. I love the battle pass system because they don't go away, so you can pick them up whenever you've earned the super credits for it from the previous battle passes. You can play with people who are level 600, I don't know if it goes that high at the moment, or level 1 and have the same sort of great experience. I got a friend who some know from the old Massive Nerd Migos original podcast, Happy Ninja Rob. He just sent me his friend code the other day. He's like, I assume you're on Helldivers. I just shouted back for democracy. So yeah, it's one of those games that keeps growing, it keeps getting legs, it keeps bringing new people in, and the stuff doesn't go away. There's no FOMO with it, so you can always play whatever there is to play. It's great. Love it. And I think they're doing a brilliant job, especially with the small size of the studio.
Woohoo! So I'll be jumping in tomorrow, checking it out. So much in the battle pass. Houston, I'm jealous. You got 250 medals already saved up. You're gonna be on lock and everything day one. But cool. And as tradition of this show, PlayStation always releases news right after we finish, and today is no different. I bet you we are going to get the announcement for PS Plus games this month, so be sure to keep your eyes out on the PS blog, because it's simply not giving it to us right now.
It will be 4:30 British summertime that it goes. Every single time, 4:30 after we finish, they drop the information. So yeah, PS Plus Extra and Premium games in 25 minutes, folks.
But what do you got going on your channel? What can people look out for? Let them know.
I have a new video up on my channel going over my thoughts on the PlayStation VR 2 after a year has passed. So you can go check that one out. I'm also currently in the process of revamping and redesigning my Discord. So it's going to look all aesthetically pleasing, be easier to navigate, and direct you to the sort of content that you want to receive. Again, over on my channel, linked to me in the description below, you'll be able to find the Discord if you want to go join that one. Be much appreciated to have folks over there. Otherwise, every single Wednesday, you'll find me here on Cloud and Console for Super PlayStation Brothers with the mighty Rudigs. And again, if you want to keep up with that one, there's the Cloud and Console Discord, which I'm assuming you've got linked below. I'm hoping you've got linked below.
Yes.
So I'm putting info out there that you have not vetoed.
We got 3 links. The Rudigs YouTube, the Doragon YouTube, and the Cloud and Console Discord.
Excellent. So you got that Discord for this one, and then another one for me. You've got my links, his links. What are you up to? You're playing with family tonight, aren't you?
Family game night tonight, as well as we are hopefully putting an end to our Murder Hobo run in BG3. I believe we're right on the cusp of the ending, so check us out on Simply Pwned Gaming later today. We'll be jamming it out there. But tonight I'll be on Family Game Night with the siblings, getting those victory royales, and be sure to tune back in Friday morning for the download. We'll be talking everything going on in gaming and technology right here on Cloud and Console. Yes, Family Cloud Gaming, FGN on GFN. But yes, until next time, be kind, bring peace into the world, and keep gaming, right?
Take care, guys. Bye.
Grove. Grove. Why try to believe in me? Why try do I even need to? I die with the season leaves. I glide with the season breeze. True, my mind so easily spooked. I ride just to be the me who finds hype super decently smooth. Nice type, but as sick as